Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the session on stress management strategies and tools. My name is Swapnil Kamat, and I'm very happy to be here this Saturday evening, taking up a subject which I think is extremely important to all of us in our day-to-day lives. The subject of stress management has been an important subject pre-COVID, but I think during these very tough times, it's become a subject which is of extreme importance, and I'm happy that so many people have logged on to attend this particular session on managing stress, the strategies and tools. Okay. Before I proceed any further, just for me to know that y'all can hear me clearly. If you can hear me clearly, see the presentation, see my face, give me a big yes in the chat box, so I'm clear that all of y'all can hear me. As usual, all the participants, when you are chatting, please convert the two to not just the panelists, but also the panelists and the attendees. So everybody can see each other's answers. I think broadly, most people can see and hear me. Very happy about that. So let's proceed on to today's session. Now, the first, the ground rules, all of y'all know the ground rules by now, but for those of y'all who are new to the Work Better Club, your cameras and microphones have been put off. Use the chat box that is there to type yes if I ask you a yes or no question. And if I ask you if there's any other exercise where I want you all to participate, please use the chat box for that. Please use the Q&A box to ask any questions that you have. Some questions I may answer during the program, but most of the questions I will try to answer at the end of the session, where we have an actual after class that you all are aware of, where which is dedicated only to answering the questions that each one of you all may have. Now, if you raise hands, I may try to come to you. I'm not entirely sure that I can do that. And at the end of the session, we are going to have assessment link, which is going to be shared with all of y'all. If you get 70% or more on that particular assessment, that is when you will get a certificate for attending this session on strategies and core tools connected to time management, right? These are just the ground rules connected to the session today. Now, when we are taking up an extremely important subject of stress management, it's important to put this disclaimer right at the start, where stress can cause severe health problems, and in extreme cases, it can be very detrimental to people. So this particular program is a program about giving you guidelines around this. If any of you all have acute stress related problems, it's very important to take professional medical help on that particular thing. And the things that you discuss here, while they're lovely guidelines, if you need something which is a slightly more serious intervention, each one of you all should go and seek that serious intervention which is there, right? Don't just rely on these programs, but really go out there and seek the help that is needed, right? Now, this is again a very important slide for those of you all who didn't attend the first session on this particular subject, which was the session on paradigm shift that was really to set the base of this particular subject. We did that session. If you didn't attend that session, you should now go to the Work Better dashboard. You should go to your individual dashboard page, which is there, and see the self-paced version of this session, because that will give you some perspective on it. So this session has already been done, and there are 2 more sessions that are, and of course this session will come back at the end of the year, and there are 2 more sessions that we're going to have on stress management. So the reason why I'm sharing this thing with you is just to make a point that we don't expect everything to get covered in this particular session, right? Everything is not going to get covered in this session. We're just talking about some strategies and tools which you can use, right, in terms of stress management. Now, understanding stress. Now, these points are extremely important, so please pay attention to these points. Number 1 point, right? This is a very nice way of defining what stress is. We did it in the last class as well, but stress occurs due to the anticipation of a negative outcome, right? That is the best, simplest way in which you can define stress. you're expecting some kind of a negative outcome, and in a way you worry about it, and when you worry a lot about it, that's what stress is in a way, right? So negative outcome, anticipation of it. The second thing is stress is anticipation of something you don't want to do or don't like to do, right? That's the other thing that often causes stress in us. So just to give you an example, if you have to go for a get together that you really don't want to go for, right? For whatever reason it is, you really don't want to go for that get together. That may cause you a lot of stress, because it's not really a negative outcome as much as you just not wanting to do something, or really you not liking doing something, right? So that causes that feeling of stress. So I think that's an extremely important point to remember, which is stress is anticipation, right? Anticipation of negative outcome or anticipation of something that you don't like doing. That is what causes stress essentially, right? Stress is also caused by the psychological and physical reactions to various demands of life, and it's also caused by this feeling of not being able to cope with a certain event, right? That's the other thing that causes stress with you, where you constantly feel. But all of them in a way tie up to these first two things that we're talking about, right? It's a feeling of not being able to cope with a certain event because you anticipate that you're not going to be able to cope with that event, and therefore you start getting stressed. Now I'm just going to draw a couple of kind of diagrams for you to see how stress tends to happen, for you to understand it, right? So let's take a simple example of a job interview, right? So in anticipation of the job interview, right, you're anticipating the job interview, so therefore now you're building up stress in yourself. Then say the job interview actually happens, right? The job interview or your appraisal interview actually ends up happening. Okay, now this job interview does not go as per your expectation. Okay, it does not go as per your expectation. The result of your expectation is you start feeling bad, okay, sad in a way. There's that negative emotion that happens because it's now not gone as per your expectation, right? A negative thing. And then we in a way stress about the impact that this will have on your career, right? Not getting this particular job, what impact that will have on your career, right? Now look at the places of what has happened. This is the job interview. This is the thing that you're really stressing about right now, right? So this is the thing that you're stressing about now. You've spent a lot of time anticipating this particular job interview, a future event that is there, and you're stressing a lot here in this. Now, what tends to happen typically, and why it's so important for each one of us to know how to deal with stress, is that if you're going to stress too much, your ability to handle this particular job interview is likely to go down, right? If you can't manage your stress properly. Because if you're damn nervous and if you're going to go in that interview, you're not going to perform at your best, right? That's not going to happen. And that will lead to an outcome in a way which is negative, which it won't go as per your expectation. And of course, when it doesn't go as per your expectation, you will feel bad, you will feel sad, and then this will feed in a way to this particular emotion that you had already, right? You're feeding into that emotion of saying that, oh, I knew I could never do it. I knew this wouldn't be possible for me to crack such an important interview. And then that creates another cycle in your head, right? Where you keep telling yourself that, see, I couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't do it. Then that again, you're worried about that. That makes you feel bad. And then you start stressing about what kind of an impact is it going to have on my loop in a way keeps continuing. And therefore, like we discussed in the earlier session, which you should check out in the dashboard or wait for the live session that comes, a lot of people suffer from event-based stress, right? So it's like a job interview, right? They're stressed about that event. And people also suffer from chronic stress, which is stress that happens, just they're feeling a sense of stress all the time in their life, right? They're suffering from both things. And what happens in a lot of cases is sometimes a lot of event-based stress eventually becomes very chronic stress, which you get stressed about everything, one and all, right? Now, let me give you another example, a simpler example. Let's say the event that is there is a birthday party. We discussed the birthday party, right? The last time. The birthday party is the event. You're organizing an important birthday party for a loved one. Okay, now here, before that particular birthday party happens, you are anticipating, oh, what if things go wrong? What if I can't handle it? So you're anticipating a negative outcome, and now you're stressing about this particular birthday party. Right now, some small thing goes wrong in that birthday party. Something goes wrong in the birthday party, doesn't go as per your expectation, food is not right, whatever it is, then we're busy stressing about, if that happens, what will people think? Correct? What will people think? Oh, what are they thinking about it? So here you found a reason to stress here. Then after the birthday party is over again, you found a reason to stress about what people's opinions are, right? So we keep putting ourselves in these loops when we're kind of anticipating a negative outcome, anticipating something bad which will be there, right? You can take the exact same thing, say for, I can erase this, and you can say an appraisal discussion, right? Or you can take your classic case. So many people get so stressed out, nervous when they have to make presentations, right? Or any kind of public speaking where they have to do that, right? Now they keep anticipating negative outcomes of this particular presentation that they need to make. They keep thinking, okay, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? What if things go wrong, right? So they constantly do this thing. And because they constantly do this, and then they go and make a presentation, something will go wrong. It always goes wrong when you're making a presentation, right? And then they will freak out further, right? So then when something goes wrong, they'll get stressed about thinking, oh, now how will this impact what will my boss think about me? Or what will my client think about me, right? How will this impact my career, right? So in a way, you have stressed before the event. Now, after it's gone wrong, again, you're stressing about it. And stressing here, you're not just stressing about it, you're stressing about it, plus you're feeling a sense of, you're not feeling good about it. And then what happens is this cycle, in a way, keeps continuing, right? Now, because you screwed up, now you're worried about what your boss is going to think about it. Then it goes again to this thing where you feed into this particular emotion of saying, see, I knew that this would happen. I knew that this would pan out in this particular way. And that's the reason why in a lot of cases we stress for an event, and then what happens is that stress for us tends to become a chronic stress, that we're stressing about stuff all the time because we formed these particular loops, right? Now, if you'll have, this is an important thing to remember. If you're clear on what I'm talking about, I don't expect you to agree to everything that I'm saying as usual, but if you understood the basic context of saying stress is nothing but anticipation of a negative outcome, stress is nothing but the anticipation of something that you have to do that you don't want to do. Give me a big yes in the chat box so that I'm clear we're on the same page as far as this is concerned. Okay, that's good. I think most of y'all, at least y'all are on the same page as far as this topic is concerned. Right, cool. So let's go to the next, right? Okay, so this is just a bit of a recap when it comes to this subject. A small amount of stress can be good, motivating you to perform well and work towards your goal. And there's a term that a lot of y'all know, which is called use stress or positive stress, right? And that tends to happen. And that tends to happen, is a very biological thing, that it tends to happen that if you have to make a presentation, if you have to go for an interview, your body and brain will start focusing in a different way altogether, right? And that focus, in a way, that happens is a very biological thing that happens, which is called stress. If it is in controlled levels, if that particular thing goes past those control levels, then it goes into being distress, right? So it's not that stress is all bad, right? Because what happens is, if it is eustress, if it's that positive stress, it's really going to help you focus in all situations. To give you an example, when cricketers like get onto the field, if they have to go and bat, it's not like they don't get nervous, right? They're very, very, very focused, because there is that certain amount of stress. But if that stress goes beyond a certain measure, then it starts becoming de-stress. But otherwise, eustress or positive stress is very, very important for each and every one of us to start performing well. Like I said, if it goes beyond a point, it becomes distress, and distress can be very, very bad for you physically, mentally, emotionally. Okay, it can impact you on all levels. If you're living with high levels of distress, both if you're getting used to getting stressed for certain events, or you have chronic stress, it is going to impact you very badly, mentally, physically. You won't be able to take proper decisions, you won't be able to do the clear thinking that you want to do. And most importantly, if you're not going to be, if you can't handle your stress, like we mentioned even in the earlier session, the problem that happens is you're not very pleasant when it comes to being around other human beings, right? So you're not going to be pleasant in office if you can't handle stress. You're not going to be a pleasant colleague. You're not going to be a, a, a very pleasant spouse or a partner to somebody. You're not going to be a very pleasant parent to somebody, son to somebody, relative to somebody, right? So if you're going to be in this constant state where you cannot handle stress, it's going to have very, very negative impacts on you, your own health, and it's going to have very negative impacts on your decision making. It's going to have very negative impacts on the way people perceive you and your relationships with them, right? So it becomes a topic of extreme importance. Now, in the first class, if you remember, we spoke more about this, right? And for those of you who couldn't attend that class, please go and attend it. Reduce your stress over wrong and insignificant things, right? So if you really change your paradigm, if you do a paradigm shift in your thinking, this part will get taken care of. However, today's session is talking more about saying that, listen, if you are stressed out, if you're feeling stress about a certain event, how is it, what are the small things that you can do to really kind of de-stress yourself, right? And how can you give yourself relief? And we're going to share one very interesting simple model, which is going to be an idea generating model for you, that will really help each one of y'all do it, right? So today our focus is on this session. Now, just in the paradigm shift session that you all should attend, we discussed 3 big points, right? Which we call the 3 P's. We discussed, if you remember, for those of you all who were there, we discussed change your perspective, change your problem, change the way you look at problems, and change the way you react to people. So we called it the 3 P's, right, of the paradigm shift towards it. And very briefly, in one line each, we said change your perspective, which basically spoke about nothing but a simple thought of saying that each one of us are on this planet for a very, very, very short amount of time, right? We're on the planet for barely 70 years, if we're lucky, right? We're not even sure whether we're going to be around for 70 years. We're here today, may not be there tomorrow, right? So in that situation, when you know you're going to have such a short life, and the world has been so long, it's been around for 4.5 billion years, it's going to be around for another 7 billion years. In that situation, it's very important to live a fairly peaceful life and not a stressed life, because life is very short in itself, right? And know for a fact that life is very, very short, and you're not there before or after that. So you need to constantly remind yourself of that. So that was one of the main points that we discussed under perspective, right? So if you know life is short, do not stress so much about it for every small thing. The second very important thing that we discussed, to do a 1 or 2 line recap. Main reason why we're stressed and why so many people have so much of a problem is insignificant, small, non-serious problems. We've made them very, very big problems, not realizing what real significant problems actually are, right? And that's become a problem with most of us, and that's why we stress all the time. And we said some of the real problems that are there are problems like, if you face problems of real health issues, right? If you face those particular issues, the death, the untimely death of a loved one, disease which is there, a big financial loss that happens, like 4 or 5 things which are really serious issues that all of us could happen to any of us at any point of time, right? And then, so those are real issues that you could stress about. And there are tons of issues, otherwise small issues, that we stress about that we don't really need to stress about at all. But we have such a wrong way of thinking and been trained so wrongly on that we stress about that a lot when we shouldn't. And the whole point of problems was to say that if each and every day, if you don't have if you've not been struck by a lethal or deadly disease, both you and your loved ones, right, which could happen at any point of time in anybody's life, right? Tomorrow your life could change overnight. If you don't have that particular thing, if a dear one to you has not passed away in an untimely way, if you do not have, if there hasn't been a catastrophic financial situation in your life, all these 3 or 4 things could happen at any point of time. And every day that these things don't happen, we must be extremely grateful for it, because just so many people on the planet suffer from such basic issues that we don't have, right? So one of the best ways to deal with stress is to have an immense sense of gratitude. That is something that we spoke about. If you're not grateful that you haven't been struck by the real problems, that is an issue in itself, right? The other thing that we spoke about around problems is, we said that one of the reasons why people are so stressed is, for some reason, they're not expecting problems to happen in their life, right? And the whole point is that tomorrow, if you're going to start a business, do a challenging job, work on a project, there are going to be tons of failures, problems, challenges, all those things that are going to be along the way. It's just part of the course if you want to do anything of consequence, right? But in a way, we've been taught this thing of, oh, don't look at the negative side, don't think negatively, whereas not really thinking negatively. We need to know that these are the realities of life, and we are going to face those particular problems. It's just part of the course. It's going to happen. So when you face them, don't be surprised by them. And the last thing, I could go on about each one of these points, but I'm going to keep it brief because this is going to connect to the subject. And the third thing is, please change your approach towards how you react to people, right? Ensure that each and every person that is dealing with you, even if they've been rude to you, everybody has their own problems. And number two, the more you spend your life constantly thinking about what somebody else thinks about you or feels about you, you are constantly going to be in a state of stress, right? So this were the broad 3 things that are important from the point of your stress. Now, quick exercise for you, okay? This session is about, we're going to talk about how do we deal with ourselves when we are feeling stressed. So what are the strategies or techniques that we can use to give each one of us relief when we are feeling stressed? So what I want you all to do is, I want you to think of all the things that, because everybody already has, I'm sure, tons of techniques that they use in order to feel relief, in order to feel slightly more in control when they feel stressed. But I want each one of you all to put down in the chat box any 3 points about how you can give yourself relief when you're feeling stressed about a certain situation. So I'm giving each one of you all 2 minutes. Put down your 3 points on the chat box, guys. I want to see what you are putting down. Please participate wholeheartedly. I'm glad that all of you are here on this Saturday evening, but participate, share your ideas so you get more clarity on it, and other people are helped as well by your input. Okay, so we have some very, very good input. Okay, so we have Mohammad Amir that is saying listening to pure music, playing any sport. Girish Yadav is saying meditation, deep breathing exercises, talk to a family member, play a game. We have Rajesh that is saying take a break, talk to family members. Sudarshan, which is saying I read storybooks when I'm stressed. Okay, Shahnawaz is saying deep breathing exercise, entertainment, listening to music, do yoga, visit my village, go out with my family. Positive, Pallab Bose is saying positive self-talk, talking to somebody you trust, take a break, go to nature, hobbies. I think you all are covering some excellent stuff here, right? Excellent stuff here. And a lot of these things are going to get covered as we go along. Okay, take a break, do what I talk to my best friend, try to find a positive side of the incident. Arunima Kamat says listening to pure music, writing down what I'm feeling, deep breathing. Anshul Pawar is saying, chatting with my friends. Aditya, nice to have you here. Meditate, exercise, think from a broader perspective. Okay, great. I think that's some very, very good input. Thank you very, very much for sharing your input. The rest of you all, yes, accept and stay positive. That's something which, Sairaj, think about the good things that you have in life. Very good. That's a very good point. We just spoke about it. Deep sense of gratitude. Then the best way to deal with stress at all points of time is to put routines for yourself where you know that you've not been struck by the real problems of life, and therefore, and know that you can be struck by them at any point of time, right? Don't we know so many people that were here today and all of a sudden not there tomorrow. We had a tragic accident last night, right? Those normal people traveling, right? And tragedies struck them forever. Irreversible tragedies struck them. And that could happen to anyone. Any one of us. We're traveling all the time. It could happen to any one of us. And each and every day that something tragic like that doesn't happen to us. It's very important to have that deep sense of gratitude towards it. And of course, knowing that we have such a short time here and such an uncertain time here. Thank you very much for your great answers and keep participating like this. Okay. So now let's look at something which is called the sensory model of stress management. Now, this is basically a model, a very simple model that in a way captures a lot of what you all have said already in the chat box, right? It captures that already. So then why are we sharing this thing? What I want each one of y'all to walk out with at the end of today is something very simple. I want y'all to walk out with a list of probably 5 to 8 ideas, including the 3 or 4 that you already have, and have a list ready with you, which the minute you feel stress, which you are bound to feel for different situations if you're a human being, you need to be able to access these ideas immediately without thinking too much, right? You need to be able to access these ideas, and that is what we need to do. So I want that in the end, a list of saying, okay, you know what? I have these 5 or 8 ideas that are there. I had 3 initially. I have 4 more that is interesting to see that people have. And now every time I feel stress, I'm not going to let that stress encapsulate me. I'm not going to let that stress totally capture my life. That's not what I'm going to allow the stress to do. I know my go-to list. I'm going to do that immediately so that I put myself in the proper stress of mind. So we keep stress at eustress and we don't keep stress and make it distress for us, right? So that is the entire point of this particular 1 hour that we're going to be spending together, okay? And I want you all to know that this sensory model will really, really help you all, okay? Now, use your senses to relieve stress. Now, what are the senses that we're talking about, right? We're talking about use your sense of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and movement, okay? So we are going to use this sensory model to do stuff in each one of these boxes that will in a way relieve us of the stress when we feel it, okay? Now, what's the first one? Sight. The first one is sight, and I hope all of you all have your notepads in with you all, right? For you all to make notes from this particular session. So how can you use sight to relieve stress when it comes to your workplace? These are just a bunch of very interesting ideas of what you can do as far as sight is concerned. Okay, look at a cherished photo or a favorite memento of yours, right? Now, this particular cherished photo of yours, if you have a dedicated workspace, or you know, when all of us go back to office in a way, I'm sure you've seen so many of your colleagues do this, right? On their desk, they have pictures of their loved ones there. They have pictures of images that really tend to inspire them in a way. And they do that, right? Because every time they're feeling stressed in a way, or if they're not in a good state of mind, it just helps them immediately to look at a picture of a loved one. Look at a picture that would really in a way inspire you, or a favorite memento. What's the favorite memento? It could be, right, some award that you won, or a certificate that you got, or a thank you note that somebody gave you, or a note of appreciation that somebody gave you, right? So if you have a desk, if you have a space, just putting those things around it, that every time you feel stressed, you kind of look at those things, and they will kind of make you feel slightly better than you wouldn't feel, right? This is what I suggest to a lot of people as well. We spend a whole lot of time on our laptops and on our phones, right? We're in front of these things all the time. So a simple thing to do could be to put an image both on your phone as a wallpaper and on your laptop that you know will inspire you, that you know will make you feel good if you feel stressed out, right? So I want each one of you all to kind of think of what is that image that you can put that will really make you feel like that, right? I know what image it is for me. I'm from Goa, and I've put a beautiful image on my phone of some nice coconut trees and, you know, a nice scenery that reminds me of Goa, reminds me of the beautiful beach I was almost born born like at a 10 minutes distance of, I put that particular image, and it makes me feel very, very nice, right? Every time I feel stressed out about stuff. For a lot of people, it's their kids, it's spouses, it's friends, it's certificates, any of those things that you can do, right? So whether it's your working space, whether it's your laptop, whether it's your phone, that's one small idea that you can start using, right? Use a plant or flowers to liven up your workspace. So that's another idea that a lot of people do, right? So have something in front of you that'll really make you feel good. Take a break to observe nature, if possible. If you're in an area where you can do that, take that particular break. If you can quickly go to a garden or do something like that, that really helps a person kind of change the way they feel. Surround yourself with colors that lift your spirits, right? Everybody has a certain color that makes them feel a certain way. So if you can surround yourself by those colors, automatically when you're feeling stressed, those colors start making you feel a lot better, right? And the last thing that a lot of people do, especially when they're feeling very stressed in situations like making a presentation, a job interview, appraisals, important review meetings and stuff like that, a lot of times what really helps you in those kind of situations is, before you enter them, really close your eyes and think of a picture or a place that really makes you feel peaceful and nice, right? This helps so many people then kind of reorient themselves, reduce that particular stress level of their, if they do these things, right? So these are just some of the ideas that you can use around the idea of how to use sight to make yourself feel better. My favorite one from this is this number one. My second one that I really like is this one, right? In terms of just the right colors that make you feel good. And of course this one, right? So when you visualize stuff in your brain, a favorite image of yours, some favorite incident of yours, the minute you use that, automatically you will feel a lot more de-stressed. And each one of these small things can really help you in terms of handling your stress in a way, right? So that's number one, sight. Number two is smell. Number two in the sensory model, right? Now, this is something that you need to do, which again can provide you with some relief, right? Where, whether it's at home or in your office, light a scented candle or burn some incense, right? Because the minute you have smells that soothe you, right, you tend to feel a lot better. Now, a great example of how smell can have so much of an impact on you, and all of y'all would have noticed this, is that every time you go to a nice salon or spa, right? Every time you go to a nice salon or spa, you will find that they have a certain smell there. And the minute you reach that salon or spa, automatically, because of that scent, and typically it is some scented candle or some incense that they have, automatically you feel a lot more relaxed, right? And of course, you know that you're there for a good treatment, a haircut, a massage, that will make you feel nice as well. But that smell in itself makes you feel very, very good. All of y'all though who have experienced it at a spa or a salon, give me a big yes in the chat box for you to know the importance of just how smell can play such a big difference, right? Yeah, come on, more yeses if you have experienced this. When you go, Sai, a lot of spa trips. Sai knows this well. Sai knows this very well. Sai Rajzod, yes. Nitin Kumar, Shika Sharma, yes, you're absolutely right, right? So that a small thing like the smell can make such a big difference to the way you start feeling and relieve your stress to a great extent. Um, yeah, Bandam is saying yes, I miss it. All of us are missing it, right? That particular sensation, but it's so simple for each one of us to do it at home or do it at our workplace, right? You may not be able to light a candle at your workplace, but you can definitely keep some oils, something that's going to make you kind of feel good and give you that sense of smell. Potpourri in the bathroom, right? So many people do that, and that smell of that makes them feel so good again, right? Another thing which is again, a lot of these things, by the way, come from a lot of research that has been done on this particular subject. You can read on each one of these things, and you can get further details later if you don't trust what we're telling you. But something which is as simple as spraying on your favorite perfume or cologne when you're feeling stressed out, right? And that sense, that smell of that favorite cologne of yours automatically will tend to relieve your stress in some way, right? So the whole idea again here is, don't wait for you to get stressed in order to do this. It's also important to have that list of stuff that you need to do when you get stressed, and you know that, okay, these are the 5 or 8 things I can do, and this will make me feel good immediately. But a lot of these things you can just incorporate in your way of operating, right? So my suggestion to you all would be, if you have a certain workspace, if you're still working from home, great, you can do it there. But if you have a workspace that you go to, or your table, get these little things that will make you feel nice when you go there and will relieve your stress automatically. And that's something that can help, right? And of course, if you have, depending on where you are, if you have, and this is something I love doing myself, right? I love, just although I live in Bombay, I live in a place which is relatively green, right? So every time I'm feeling a little stressed, every time I'm feeling not in the right state of mind, my go-to thing to do is quickly again go down, go for a walk, and smell the flowers, smell nature, smell all these things. And within 1 hour, it's like literally I'm feeling better within 1 hour that I'm down and I come back, right? So it has such an immediate impact on us, and it's something that we should absolutely do, right? So the second one is smell. That is something that can really help us. Right now, the third one is touch. Right now, what are the things that we can do around touch? Cologne. Yeah, what is cologne? Cologne means perfume. That's a question that's come up. Yes, cologne means a perfume, something that you can spray on your body or your clothes, and that is something that will make you feel good. Right now, the next one is touch. Again, these are a few of my favorites, right? So every time I feel stressed or I'm not in the right state of mind, something that helps me, and it almost helps me 100% of the time, it helps me, is having a nice hot bath, right? It's a nice hot bath when you're feeling stressed out, is the equivalent, in a way, it's like a cousin of a good massage, right? It's a cousin of that. We can't go and get massages every day, but having a nice hot bath is literally the closest that you will come to that, right? And also what happens is, when you're having a bath, it also, you have some privacy with you. People are not typically disturbing you. I hope you don't have a child kind of banging on the door when you're having a hot bath, right? That can be annoying. But if that's not the case, touch, in terms of just having that bath, is something that you could do. I would recommend that to most people in order to reduce your stress levels immediately. Okay, if you have animals in your house or around your area that you're fond of, often it's seen, all of y'all that have dogs know this already, right? I don't need to tell them. And I share this incident where when my wife used to have a dog, and when her dog passed away, one of the first thoughts that she has was, now who am I going to talk to, right? My dog is gone. Who's going to be there to relieve my stress? And that reflected very badly on how good a husband I was, but that's how she actually felt about it, right? So anybody that has a pet knows that they are causes of kind of instant kind of stress release for people, right? So you can go there, holding a comforting object, right? So you have, I'm sure all of you all have seen those squishy balls, the ones that you like, the sponge balls that you can squash. Okay, they're called stress balls. So that's another thing that people use a lot, right? So when they're stressed, it's like they like pressing that thing, and the whole thing of the touch and the movement, that's something that makes them feel better. Give yourself a hand or a neck massage, where possible, because it's not going to always be possible for you to go and get massages, but this is another simple thing that you can do that can really help, which is, if you just go about, if you're feeling very, very stressed out, if you just go about kind of pressing your hands up to your arms, if you go about doing that at all points of time, automatically you will feel slightly more lighter, your stress levels are likely to go down if you feel that. And the last thing which is there, which all of us have experienced, but we don't do enough, right? Even if it comes to home clothes, right? Wear clothing that is soft against your skin. All of us have those favorite kind of t-shirts of ours or favorite clothes of ours at home that automatically, when we wear those particular things, we tend to feel a lot more relaxed, we tend to feel a lot more better, right? So at any point of time where you're feeling stressed, you get into the house, ensure that you go have a hot shower immediately. If you have a pet, you can go to that particular, that will make you feel better. If you have some comforting object which you can throw, if you can press, that really helps. Pressing, giving yourself hands a massage very, very quickly. The hand thing really works very well for people. Okay, when they do it, it's like immediate stress release when you do that. A lot of people like giving their neck themselves a massage, so that is something that you can do. And of course, wearing clothes that will make you feel very, very, very comfortable and very nice, so that again reduces stress, right? Clothing has a big part, in everything that we do actually. So if you're going to go for an important meeting, I always suggest that you dress extremely sharply, because if you dress extremely sharply for the meeting, you will tend to feel much more confident, right? So clothing has that kind of an impact on you. On the other side, if you want to relax yourself, if you wear clothes that are very soft, that feel good on your body, automatically that will kind of relieve your stress, right? And men in the past at home used to often wear very, very comfortable garments like the lungi, if you remember, right? And incredibly soft and comfortable. We don't do that. New age modern Indian men don't wear the traditional lungi anymore. But that lungi, I remember our parents' generation, they would wear it, and that would be an incredibly good way for them to wear a, say, a sadra and a lungi, and that would make them feel extremely relaxed when they would get past or get through a day that would be very exhausting for them, right? So that they would go and do that, and that sense of touch would really, really help in a way, right? So self massage, getting a massage, right clothes, comforting object, pet a dog, cat, or taking a hot bath. All of these things and a lot of other things. So the reason why we've given you this particular model is there could be so many other things around touch as well that I don't know of, right? So for example, a lot of people have that I don't know what it's called, right, where they have acupressure kind of things that they do, right? Which is, again, I don't know much about acupressure, but it's stuff that they do. They roll their hands over it like that, and again, that makes them feel good immediately when they do something like that. So those are, again, ideas that you can go to when you're feeling stressed, right? Now the next thing is taste, on our sensory kind of thing of relieving stress. This is what a lot of people find useful. Okay, of course, I wouldn't recommend chewing gum when you're in formal settings, formal meetings, even in office for that matter. I wouldn't recommend doing it, because there's a huge connotation of being casual if you're chewing gum. But in certain situations where you're not in highly formal office situations, it's seen that just chewing gum or chewing something like that can make you kind of release your stress to a great extent, right? So that is something that you can do. A lot of times when you're feeling stressed out, of course, this is not something that you can keep going to all the time and keep filling your stomach with chocolate, right? You can't do that. But sometimes just a small piece of chocolate can really make you feel a lot better and can relieve your stress to a great extent, right? So you should go and do that and keep that kind of handy in the office. For me, I do the third one the most. Is This is something that I like doing every time I'm feeling a little stressed or out of sorts. My go-to thing is to have a nice cup of coffee. That is something that I like to do. And the minute I have a nicely prepared hot cup of coffee, automatically a lot of my stress tends to kind of go down automatically when I do that, right? I feel a lot better all of a sudden. And of course, it's the caffeine in it, but also I think it's a mental routine of just when I have that cup of coffee, automatically feel better. Have a nice fruit, right? So that is seen to have properties that really help when it comes to stress. And of course, enjoying a healthy crunchy snack, something which is a cereal, carrot, anything of that sort that really kind of really helps, right? So this is how you can use taste in order to make yourself kind of reduce your stress, right? So this is the next one. Now this one again is very, very, very interesting, which is movement when you're feeling stress, right? And a lot of y'all mentioned that. um, so when it comes to your office settings or when it comes to your desk settings, I think doing number one is something which a lot of people forget to do, but is something that all of us should do, right? Because it may not be possible for you to do a full dance in office. That may not be possible, but it's always possible for us to kind of stand up at regular intervals, and those regular intervals could be between a 25 minutes to half an hour slot where you're actually sitting and doing stuff for a long time, because before you know it, you could feel stressed out about stuff, right, before you even realize it. So at a every 25 minutes to 30 minutes, I think is a very, very good idea to just stand up and stretch yourself, right? So automatically when you do a few simple stretches, like you can see the lady doing in the presentation, just a few simple stretches, that makes you feel a lot better, right? Every 25-30 minutes that you're working, this is something that again I would recommend. It comes in each and every one of the things. If you looked at it, right, go for a walk, because of the smell, the sight, each one of those things where it really helps, right? But again, that particular movement is something that you can do, and that is something which will really help. Okay, now run in place or jump up and down, right? You would have seen a lot of sports people doing that before their critical matches, right? You'll see all of them adopting this thing, and of course it's to move your body and gain a little bit of flexibility, but more than that, it's also about relieving yourself of stress. So you'll see them like jumping. Tennis players do this all the time, right? Before the match, they'll keep like jumping, right? Or they'll do a small run in the place. And this is the jumping thing is what I would recommend if you're feeling absolutely stressed in an office situation where people feel this, especially when they need to go into important meetings or when they need to do important presentations. That is the time where they feel extreme amount of stress. And even if you can like go outdoors a little or go into the bathroom or do something like that, and just quickly kind of do a little bit of jumping up and down, right? So that is something that again will help you feel a lot better when you're doing it. Again, we spoke about the squeezy, the stress ball that is there. So doing that kind of a movement, a lot of people have the cruncher that they keep right on their table. So the minute they're feeling stressed, they do the cruncher slightly, and automatically circulation of blood, all those things, it really helps people feel better. And another kind of suggestion which is there, which will both keep you healthy, ensure that the movement is happening, and relieve your stress, is a lot of us spend a whole lot of time on calls, right? We're always on calls, and a lot of calls may require us to actually sit down and make notes, right? If it's a very important call, it's going to be a very detailed call, you need to sit down, you need to make notes of that particular thing. So you can't move around. But there could be a lot of calls where you could actually, instead of sitting down, you could actually walk around, right? Or pace around and take those particular calls. So that again is a good idea if you can do that, right? Because automatically the whole act of walking and talking is going to make you feel better, right? That walking and talking is going to make you feel better. So that's something that you should do in situations where you don't need to sit down and make notes. That's a good idea, and that's something that I tend to do. That really helps me, right? So that's about movement. Now let's look at sound. What are the things that you can do? Again, I love this particular point. A lot of y'all have mentioned it, but let me tell you how this, and I literally remember the songs, the tracks that would help me so much. So the first time we got into this particular field of as Work Better started this 10, 12 years back. And when we started, the first few times that I had to make presentations, I had to, do important meetings. It was brand new to us. We had never done that before. So I used to, I wouldn't say stress, but I would feel that to a certain extent, right? I would get, I wouldn't say overpowered is the wrong word, but I would feel a certain amount of stress. And the one thing that would really help me is listening to great music, and not just great music. I had specific songs that I would listen to that would like peck me up and put me in the right state of mind. And at that point of time, I don't know whether you remember, there was a movie called Rock On, and there was it's a very, very good album, Farhan Akhtar's first movie, Rock On, where he sung most of the songs. So I remember it so distinctively because I did it so much to myself before every important presentation, every important meeting, that I would listen to that peppy music. And just trust me, every time I did that, listening to that peppy music, automatically I went from being not like having my stress levels being high to drastically reducing them and feeling a lot more confident. So for me, it wasn't just music, or wasn't just listening to music. It was like very specific songs, tracks, albums, right? Very, very specific stuff that I would listen to. And the minute I started listening to that, automatically my stress levels would go down, right? So I'm sure each one of us has those songs that you know. For me, this works even till date, right? If I'm doing a run, for example, and if I have if I want to run for 40 minutes, and say I'm at 25 minutes and I'm feeling very, very tired, I know exactly what music to play. And the minute I play that music, my body kind of automatically starts pepping up, and then I can do those 15 minutes more because I'm listening to songs that really pump me up. So traditionally, because music has been one of mankind's first inventions in a way, right? And the reason why it was such an ancient invention is because it has such a big impact on our emotional state. It has such a big impact on our mood. And that's why it's such an ancient invention for us. But yeah, so each one of y'all, music is good, but also in a way identify what is the kind of music that helps you relieve stress. And it may not always be, a lot of people may think, do I need to listen to Shastriya Sangeet, okay, or do I need to listen to some bhajans, or do I need to listen to some, no, it's none of those things, right? Different things could work with different people. It doesn't, you don't need to have one size that fits all of y'all, right? You can discover, okay, this is the kind of thing that gets me out of a funk in a way, gets me out of a bad mood, right? And gets me out of that stress. That's the music I need to access as soon as I'm getting into that space where I'm feeling stress, right? So access it immediately. So the minute you access it immediately, you have done yourself a favor. And the favor you've done yourself is, otherwise you'll spend a prolonged amount of time feeling stressed. And now after this session, hopefully what you should do is, the minute you start feeling stressed, okay, this is my list, these are things I'm going to start doing that's going to put me in the right state of mind again. I'm not going to let it go to a space where it really overpowers me, right? And that's what this entire session is about. Right now, for a lot of people, it is listening to calming or calming music, right? So if that works for you, that is, even if you go on YouTube and just type calming music, if you just do that, you will find tons of stuff, right, in these two categories: sound of nature and calming music. If you go on YouTube, and a lot of people even use that when they're working on important projects. They're listening to that music when they're doing it, and that listening to that music tends to make them feel so much better. And again, nature has got, if you realize through all our points, nature has got so much to do with stress and how you feel, right? And that's because nature is like the ultimate de-stressor in a way. Greenery is the ultimate de-stressor. Smelling the right flowers is the ultimate de-stressor. So since a lot of times we don't get crashing of waves, we don't get these things, let's at least do them digitally for ourselves, because we can access them so easily right now. Okay, now this is another point. I haven't done the point number 4. I haven't ever found the need to do it, but you'll find so many offices will actually have fountains, right? So many offices will have fountains. So many offices will have falling water in a way. And that's because if you go to some reception, and all of us have experienced this firsthand. I'm sure all of us have been to some hotel, some office that has a nice little fountain outside, or nice like water falling from somewhere. And all of y'all would agree that the minute you go into that kind of a space, automatically you tend to feel a lot more relaxed, right? When you hear the sound of those fountains, of that falling water. And this has happened to me so much, where I've gotten into that space and I'm like, wow, I'm feeling so much more, so much better and not stressed because of that. So you get stuff like small, I haven't done this, so I can't speak firsthand of it, but I know a lot of people that have bought very small water fountains. You'll get them on Amazon, and they keep them on their desk, and that particular sound and that image, that tends to de-stress them every time they're feeling a certain amount of anxiety in a way, right? And of course, this is a age-old thing where people do, which is hang wind chimes near open windows, and that particular sound of that wind chime when you're working or when you're doing something, that can make you feel very, very nice. And that's another very, very good idea that you can use, right? So these are basically, those are the senses that we covered. Let me just quickly take you to the uh, uh, just a minute. Let's just look at it again. Yeah. Okay, so just to recap, guys, sight, we're going to, from today onwards, we're going to ensure that every time we're feeling stressed, we're going to relieve our stress to the right sight, the right sounds that we expose ourselves to, the right smells that we expose ourselves through, the right taste that we expose ourselves to, the right kind of touch that we give ourselves, and the right movement. And if we do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things, okay, and get to them, create that list which helps get to those particular points as soon as we feel it, and not really elongate the process of feeling like that, because nobody likes feeling stressed beyond a point. We don't like that feeling, and we need to be well trained after this session to access these things immediately when we do it, right? So this is just a quick recap of it. Now, what are some of the other things to do which will help you manage stress besides the sensory model, right, of doing it? Okay. Practice deep breathing. Now, before we talk about this, I have to say that I am no expert on the topic of deep breathing, and there are lots of experts in India that can really help you kind of understand these things. A lot of big public figures as well that talk about this, and you should go to them more for this advice than this particular session. But deep breathing is there could be lots of different techniques to it, but the simple thing that I use without any formal training, right, on this subject, the simple tip that I use that has really helped me is something as simple as every time I feel stress, and I used to feel a lot of stress at one point of time around my health, right? I would always feel that I'm or maybe getting a heart attack for some reason, right? I'd always have that, and then you don't really sometimes know the difference between having a lot of gas and having a heart attack, right? It all happens in that same space. So I would, like 10 years back, get very, very concerned and worried about that. And then somebody told me about just breathe deeply every time you're feeling that. And that had such a big impact on my life, where every time I feel stressed, I just breathe deeply, I just hold it for 3 seconds, and then I just let it go, let it go, let it go, do the same thing, right? And if I do this at least 10 to 15 times, if I do this in any kind of situation, just breathe in deeply, for 3 seconds, hold it for 1 second, then breathe out for 3 seconds, right? Just doing this little simple thing when I'm feeling stressed, and especially stressed around health related things, would often make me feel like it would have the best kind of impact on me. And I've literally, I'm telling you, I've suffered from so much stress before I learned these deep breathing techniques that I knew, right? Because I wouldn't access them, and this has been something that has helped me immensely, right? So of course, get more knowledge on this subject that from people that know more about it. There is no doubt about that. Get that more knowledge from them. But even if you don't have the time to do it, practice deep breathing, which is very, very simple. All of us as human beings can do this, right? Minute you're hit by stress, do this thing and you will see such a big impact on you. I would say 10 times is something that really helps. If you do anything from 10 to 20 times, that is going to make you feel amazing when you're feeling stressed, right? But do it in this kind of way. Breathe in, right, for 3 seconds, hold on for 1 second, then breathe out for 3 seconds. And this 3-1-3 model can really help you with your breathing. And of course, get more information on it if you want. Right now, the other thing which is very important from the point of view of dealing with stress is get proper sleep, right? So that is something that you need to do. You need to get proper sleep, which is at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep is something which is recommended, and at least 6 actually is what I tend to get, anything from 6 to 7, and that has so much of an impact on the way you'll end up feeling, right? The second big thing, and this I've seen across the board, right, that professionals that operate really well in the knowledge economy. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of background. So in the knowledge economy, where you are using so much of your brain to produce outcomes or to produce work, right? Because most of the work that most of the people here are not doing factory work. We're not doing manual work. We're all doing brain work, right? And when you're doing brain work, it is very, very important to give your brain breaks, right? And if you're not going to give your brain a break, you're going to feel exhausted, and you're also going to feel a lot of stress if you don't give it that break. I have known throughout my career excellent performing professionals that ensure that they plan their holidays very well, right? However much they are passionate about their work, however much they love their work, they're very particular about planning their holidays. If there is a long weekend that they get, they are very particular about making some family plan connected to that weekend, right? Where they'll take a slightly long extended weekend, they'll go on a break with their friends and family, and really come back rejuvenated, right? So then when you come back to work, you tend to feel so much better when you come back to work, because if you don't do this thing, which is taking the appropriate amount of stress, this is something that is going to really impact you if you're in a state where you're in a chronic state of stress in a way, right? Where you're feeling it all the time. Take the break that you need, right? And take that break to make yourself feel better, whether it's a vacation, whether it's a holiday, whether it's your sleep, but prioritize taking time off. We don't do that, and then we are not as productive as we should be, right? That's something that doesn't happen. And again, I reiterate, the best professionals do that. They're very, very particular about their time off. I would recommend that you do that too, right? Now, the third thing here, the third tip here is learn to say no, right? Because a lot of the stress which is caused in our life is stress related to our inability to say no to people. We have discussed this even if you access the self-paced class on time leveraging, right, which is a part of time management. We discussed that our inability to say no to people ends up causing us a lot of stress, right? So if you know that there is some situation where you can say no because you're sure that particular situation is going to cause you stress, please learn to say no. Okay, so last evening I was having this discussion with one of my family members, and we were just talking about the one thing that we in the colony that we live, there are a lot of social events that keep happening here, right? Like almost everything is a social event here, and it's very, very nice. But my job involves me to kind of do sessions like this where I'm literally talking to people all the time, and I'm with people all the time. So then I want to come back to my place, and then I want to get a little bit of rest myself. And a lot of these social events, I know because we get a lot of invites to come for them, and there's a lot of pressure sometimes to go for them, right? But I know that, listen, I've had a stressful week already, I've had an exhausting week already, and if I say no to that, I can kind of avoid that entire event. I can avoid it in totality and kind of not put myself into that stressful situation, right, by just having that ability to say no to something. And the minute I don't have that ability to say no, I will go for that particular social gathering, and then that will increase my frustration, my irritation, my stress, my anxiety towards it, because that's something that I don't want to do. And then by the time I go for that social event, it's going to really trouble me that, yaar, सुबह से I'll be thinking कि यार शाम को अब वहां जाना है, I need to go for that thing that I don't want to go, and that'll be playing on my mind all day long, saying, Arey, I don't want to go for that thing, but I still need to go for it. I don't want to go for that thing, but that's going to be playing on my mind the entire day and cause me stress. Because if you remember, the whole definition of stress is anticipation of a negative outcome. Stress is anticipation of something you don't want to do or don't like to do, right? So it's anticipation of that. So if there's a social gathering which I don't want to do, I'll be entire day, I'll be thinking about that thing. And I could have avoided all that stress by just saying, listen, what, I'm not available for that, I need to rest for that, or made some other excuse and just said no, right, to that thing. And the minute I do that, automatically I would feel a lot better and lesser stress. So this is kind of my hypothesis. I have one of the big reasons, and I say this of all of us Indians, one of our big reasons for us to being stressed out is we are so bad at saying no to people. We are so bad at doing it, right? It's like literally we will not attend somebody's calls for days and avoid people and not give them answers, yet not just pick the phone and say no, I won't be able to come for it and do that, right? Because we have so much of a resistance to saying no, and that impacts us so much in our personal and our professional lives. In both these lives, our inability to say no really, really impacts us in a big way, right? So that's the other thing I would kind of encourage you to do and think about if you want to deal with stress better. Okay, and the last point before we get into takeaways and our Q&A that we'll do around this particular subject is reach out to your friends, right? Social support is an extremely important way of dealing with stress. And just talking to a close colleague or close friend is something which can relieve you of your stress, and it's a very important thing to do. Now, I'll share another thing here. Sometimes we feel if you're stressed out and if you reach out to a friend or a colleague who's more like a friend, we feel in a way that we are burdening that person by sharing what we feel about a certain situation or our stress, although we know it's going to make us feel good, right? And we feel that we're burdening them. But in a lot of cases, unless you're doing it all the time with one friend, right, where you're constantly feeling stressed for nothing, and then you're constantly calling your friends to, then it will be a burden for them if you're doing this constantly, right? Because, and more often than not, that happens, like I mentioned, when you can't differentiate between real problems and fake problems. You can't differentiate between serious problems and non-serious problems. So every small little thing you're stressed about. And then if you're going to call your friend about every small little thing, then the friend is going to get irritated with you. Your colleagues are going to get irritated with you. You're going to get a terrible reputation for being constantly negative, constantly whining, constantly stressed, right? So anything done to an extreme level is terrible. So don't be that person. It's very important for you to go through the class on paradigm shift and know that do not get stressed out about small, stupid things, right? The minute if you keep doing that, none of these techniques is going to help you, right? Because you'll constantly be in that state of stress irrespective. And then if you constantly call a friend, the friend is not interested in talking to you, right? But if you really have, if periodically you're feeling stressed about something which you should feel stressed about, right? Which is something which is important to you, which is meaningful for you. And then if you call a friend, what happens is it gives that friend that you're calling the liberty to call you when that friend is feeling stressed. Does that make sense to you? When you reach out to a friend to share your problems or your stress in a way, it gives that friend the comfort of calling you back when they need you in some way. If you don't make that call to them, they never feel the comfort to come to you when they are feeling that thing. And both of y'all feel then uncomfortable going to each other, right? So by sharing your stress or your problems or whatever it is, by actually reaching out to your close friend and talking about it, you will create a positive culture between the two of y'all and in your social circle that is there. That will end up happening, and then they will call you, and then you will be in a way a comfort for each other when you're feeling stressed, right? Now, we mentioned right at the top, at the disclaimer stage is something that we mentioned, and the whole point that we put there was to say, um, reach out to a professional, reach out to a therapist if you actually are feeling stressed to an extent where you don't think that you can handle it, right? So that's the time you go to a counselor, that's the time you go to a therapist. But the first kind of level of this thing is just talking to people, your family, friends who are close to you, and doing it and feel comfortable doing it, right? A lot of us are so uncomfortable sharing our vulnerability, right? We always want to come across as strong to people. And if you know that friendships are not based on you showing your strength to your friends, um, friendships are built on you sharing your vulnerabilities with your friend. Vulnerabilities means what are your weaknesses, what are your fears, what are the things that worry you, right? They are more like your secrets, the more the things that you worry about. And the minute you start honestly sharing that with your friends and family, your real vulnerabilities, your real worries, your real problems, your real challenges, that is the in a way the start of real meaningful relationships with people, right? So don't at any point of time underestimate actually talking to people. What we tend to do is we tend to build up all this stress in our head and get it to a point where we absolutely can't handle it, and then it has very, very acute and bad impacts on our own health, and like we said, on your decision making, on your relationships, on all these things. And this entire session and all the sessions that we're doing is very simply not allowing your stress to get to a level where you cannot handle it, both event based and chronic, not letting your stress get to that level, right? And all of y'all know a lot of kind of public news around this thing, right? Around the topic of mental health. It's become such an important topic. And what I often end up telling people is both your all health is important, your physical health is important, and your mental health is important. And exactly like the wrong time to start working out is after you get a heart attack, right? That's the wrong time to start working out. You should work out way before you get a heart attack, right? Exactly like that, the wrong time to start taking care of your mental health is when you reach a point where you break down emotionally, or you do something drastic, or you get it to an extent where it just, that's the wrong time to start working on your mental health. You need to work on your mental health on a day-to-day basis. On an everyday basis, you must take care of both your physical and mental health. And if you actually take the effort on a day-to-day basis to take care of both your mental and physical health, you will find yourself in a much more healthy space, right? There's a very nice quote from Jim Rohn where he says, people either change out of desperation or inspiration, right? People either change out of desperation or inspiration, which means you would have seen so many people start taking care of their health, both mental and physical, after they have a big ailment, right? After they have a big health problem. Wrong time. You need to start taking care of your health, both mental and physical, from today onwards, right? for you to avoid situations like that you can get into, because sometimes that just becomes too late when that happens, right? Just another final thoughts before we get into the takeaways and all the other things. It's very important that each one of us understand that the minute you're operating constantly from a space of being stressed out, that impacts your performance on everything, right? On each aspect of your life, that will impact your performance. I have never seen a person who is terribly stressed about going for an important meeting perform really well in that meeting. I haven't seen that. If you feel a certain amount of stress, yes, of course you'll go into a meeting and kind of perform very well, but I've rarely or never seen anyone perform well at an important meeting when they're terribly stressed about it. I've never seen anybody enjoy their own wedding, a birthday party, or a certain event if they're totally stressed out about it, right? And those are events that you should enjoy in a way, right? Those are important events, but we end up getting stressed out about all the wrong things, and then that what could have been an enjoyable event, we are busy shouting, we're busy throwing tantrums, we're busy hurting people that really matter to us, right? I haven't seen anybody, or very rarely have I seen people having great relationships with their family and friends that are constantly stressed out, because people don't want to be around those people that are constantly stressed out, right? So again, going back, if you're not going to take care of, if you're not going to get good at stress management, if you're not going to get good at handling your mental health, it's going to have detrimental impact in so many different things, right? So just my suggestion to each one of y'all is, please do not take these issues lightly. Please do not get to a point where these issues become really serious issues. All of us know that we can handle these things by certain changes in our thinking, which are largely revolving around the 3 Ps: perception, problems, people. If we change our thinking around perceptions, problems, people, like we discussed, that is something that can help you. Number two, something that can help you is this thing, right? When you get stressed out, know all the different small little things that you can do that don't let your stress get out of control, right? And if you just do these things, that will seriously have an amazing impact on your life, both personal and professional, and something that can really help you. I've seen just way too many people take these issues lightly, right? They take these issues lightly, and then they end up suffering on all these levels. So that's my real request to you. We have 4 sessions in all on this, right, on this topic. So I would recommend that each one of you attend all these sessions. That's really my plea to y'all. You've paid for them, you may as well attend all these things. And one simple kind of trick, or a few simple tricks around this, can help you so much in becoming a better partner, in becoming a better spouse, in becoming a better parent, in becoming a better professional, in becoming a better boss, right? A lot of y'all that have had bosses before, do you ever like dealing with a boss that's constantly stressed out, right? Do you think he'll make a good leader, somebody that's constantly stressed out? No, right? He's not going to make a good leader. There's no doubt about it, right? Now, your ability to lead people is so damn important for you to make progress. So if you're going to be that leader that's constantly stressed out, how is it that your team is going to look up to you? They're not going to be able to look up to you. You're not going to be able to lead them properly, right? So look at the kind of impact that has if you don't take the subject of managing your stress seriously. It is a very, very important issue. Okay, good. Guys, let's get to your takeaways from this particular thing. And what I want you all to do is, I want you to start with, this is what I want to spend these last 10 minutes on. If you have a piece of paper, I hope you have a notepad in front of you. I want you to think of all your takeaways and write down all your takeaways. And basically what I want you to write down today is not just 3 things that you would take away, because we've discussed a lot of ideas. I want you on your notepad, and I'm giving you 2 minutes to do it. I want you to put down as many ideas that you can access when you're feeling stressed out, right? I want you to take 2 minutes, and don't be lazy around doing your takeaways, right? Because if we don't do our takeaways right, we're not going to be able to extract the most from this situation. And like we keep discussing, just doing and attending these sessions are useless if you're not going to put these things into action, right? So make a list, sit down, think exhaustively of all the points that you have picked up from this session that you know already that you want to now start doing more. Write all of them. I'm giving you 2 minutes. After you've written, in my opinion, at least 6 to 8 points in all that you're going to use as a stress relief, Then I want you to come to the chat box and share 2 or 3 new points that you've learned from today's session, or that you've been reminded of from today's session, that you're going to start using, right? So first put down your own list on your notepad, then come to this particular chat box and put down your 2 or 3 new points that you're going to start doing from this session. Okay, so I will give you 2 to 3 minutes to do that. Okay, so we have a few people putting down their takeaways already. I hope you first written it down on your own notepad, but let's look at what Palab Bose, very nice. Thank you very much. It's very sweet of you to share that, saying that I'm going to use all my 5 senses to reduce stress. Art of saying no to people. We have a specific session, guys, on how to say no to people, right? So I hope all of y'all attend that session on how to say no to people. It's a very interesting session that could help you a lot. And Palab both says set priorities to avoid stress, right? Anand Menon, very, very good. Desk arrangement, improving sight, smell, touch aspects, breathing, learn to say no, talk to near ones, jump, walking, talking while on calls, right? Very simple things, but this could help you so much in doing the jump thing. For example, you just observe, if any of y'all watch sports, you observe all sports people do this all the time, right? And it's their way of kind of relieving stress. And of course you can do that in situations where you're feeling really stressed, or you can do it at home as well. Don't do it in front of family members. They may think you've gone a little mad if you do that, if you keep jumping around the house. But if you have some kind of private space, if you just like jump around a little, right? If you're feeling really, really panicked and stressed out about a certain situation, that's something that you can do immediately. And of course, guys, I'm no breathing expert, but just breathe. The deep breathing in the way I've done it itself has helped me so much, right? So start by doing that and then research more from, we have so many experts in India that talk about that, right? Bandamukta, beautiful session. Top takeaway is how to use our senses. Okay, great. And importance of gratitude. Um, I keep sharing this in almost every class of mine, right? And I consider that as literally the second most important thought that I ever learned, which was be grateful for all that you have while aspiring for all that you want, right? And this has both aspects: having gratitude towards what you have already, because most of us have more than 3.5 billion people on the planet. If you're attending this session, you already have more than half the world's population, right? In terms of food on the table, proper shelter, a phone connection, you have all those basics. So if we are not grateful for that on a day-to-day basis, that's not going to help. And so many actually religious practices across all religions, which a lot of us have forgotten, right? Revolve around showing gratitude towards stuff. A lot of religious practices around that, right? In all religions. So just the simple act of praying before you eat your food, or showing thanks to your food before you eating the food, is nothing but an ancient way of showing gratitude towards the fact that you have food in front of you where so many people don't have it, right? It's such a simple thing, but we have in a way lost these best practices from our culture, our religion. And this is not just in India. I don't mean to say, oh, Indian culture is great. This is all over the world. People have these small rituals, small traditions from religion and their culture that we have forgotten in a way that we don't do, right? And the simplest one is something like saying grace, for example, right? before you start a meal, which is basically showing gratitude for all that you have. I forget what's the name of the festival where we in India, and especially in the Hindu religion, we put flowers on all our assets, right? I forget what it's called. If somebody remembers, please put it up, right? But that simple kind of ritual of putting a flower in front of an asset that you have, whether it's a car, whether it's Dashera, sorry, yes, right? So that particular small little kind of thing is nothing but a religious form of showing gratitude towards the thing that you have already, right? Being thankful. But we've forgotten so many of these things around gratitude, and that's why we're feeling stressed all the time, right? While doing it. And like I keep sharing, if in a country like India, if you just go for a walk, in a city like Bombay, if you just go for a walk on the road, you will find enough of reasons, if you just look around, for us to be grateful for all that we have already, right? So that is something which is very, very important. Okay, let's look at some of the other answers which have come. Thank you very much for all the kind words. Thank you if you love the way this has been explained. Mohammed Amir says, stress needs to be managed every day. It is important. Plan your vacations well. Call a friend once a week. Meditate for 15 minutes a day. Right? Again, Mohammed, I'm not a expert on meditation, but whoever thinks that that helps relieving stress, I think even I don't do it myself, but I have so many people that actually do that and swear by it. They say there's nothing more important than that. The deep breathing work, Pratyush says deep breathing, workstation, flowers and mementos, water fountain, small things that you can do, yes, Pratyush, which are very, very important. Okay, Sairaj, always have gratitude towards the things that you have. Use your senses to relieve stress. Don't stress over trivial things. Speak to people that you trust. Learn to say no, right? I think that those are some beautiful takeaways, Sairaj, for you. Yogesh, hi, my friend. Use of deep breathing, yes, very, very important. Social support, if you can. I think just to add to what we discussed earlier, right? I think the important part about reaching to your friends is a two-way street. Always remember that when you reach out to a friend, you give them the comfort of reaching out to you. When you reach out to a family member, you give them the comfort of reaching out to you. So it is advantages both to you and them when you do it. And of course, talk to somebody that is trusted. Talk to somebody that's close. Talk to somebody that's likely to listen to you. Talk to somebody that's likely to give you good advice, right? We all know those friends that are sensible, wise, that mean well for us, right? Those are the people to reach out to. Don't in our attempt of being strong, we have forgotten the importance of being vulnerable. In our attempt of being strong, we have forgotten the importance of just being human. In our attempt of being strong, we have forgotten that each one of us will have our own weaknesses. In our attempt of being strong, we have started putting up a front, which is so not required, right? The front of saying that everything is okay, right? That's not the way to go about life. And again, I keep coming back to social media because it's one of the biggest increases of people's stress. The minute you look at one of the reasons why we don't reach out to our close friends, is because every time you go on social media, you're seeing all their best images, all their best. So you think, sabke life mein acha chal raha hai, mere life mein stress chal raha hai, right? So how can I call somebody? Look at his life; it's so good. He puts up all these amazing looking stories, but that's really not the truth of the situation, right? So know that importance of reaching out to people when you need it. It's a two-way street. Plan breaks to reduce stress. Change, again, I'm going back to Yogesh's takeaways. Plan breaks to reduce stress. I think it's very, very important. All of us, okay, now this is another kind of problem of modern day working in a way, guys. The problem of modern day working is whether it's your work or whether it's your personal life, just everything ends up coming on your phone, right? So everything is integrated into that one phone where you're accessing stuff. So it's, again, just extremely important for you to know that there have to be certain days where you just totally switch off from doing your work, right? Just absolute total switch off from it. Don't access anything connected to it. It could just be like 1 day a week or 2 days, but it is extremely important because then your mind will come back rejuvenated. Ensure that you do that. Guys, ensure that you know the importance of taking breaks, especially during the COVID times, right? During these times, and if a lot of us are working from home, so the boundaries between work and home have been blurred even more during COVID, right? So because we're doing both things at home, but give yourself a little bit of break even during this time where a lot of people that are doing jobs. I would recommend that if you've been at it for long, if it's the right time, please take like 2 days leave, join it with the weekend and take 4 days off, even if there is nothing which is planned, because COVID is going to be around for a while, right, till the vaccine comes. Even if you're not going anywhere else, ensure that you just take that brain. But I have a secret to share. A lot of times if you take a break from work, your spouse may make you do a lot of other things that the way you'll think work is much better than doing those things, right? I'm sure that's what a lot of you all are thinking. At least when you're sitting in front of your laptop, a lot of you all may think that is much better than doing all the other work. So a lot of you all may be thinking like that. I know that's the thought that came to my mind, because every time I tell my spouse that today I'm taking a break, she ends up giving me so much more work that I think laptop pe baithna acha tha. But if you're not going to be in that situation, this is a secret between us. But if you're not going to be in that situation, then you can take a break. Okay, do that thing. It's a very important thing to do. I'm sure a lot of you are going to smile and agree with me. I hope you are on speaker, like nobody's listening to our conversation. Huh? This is just between club members. Okay, so let's look at the other. Okay, thank you very much. Mohammad Amir says, yes, can relate. That's Pallab says, that's the problem. Yes. Yogesh, yes, a lot of people are saying I go for a cup of coffee, right? Very, very important. I not just coffee, any beverage that will just give you a break from work so that you come back and plan those things properly. Okay, guys, thank you very much. You all have been such an amazing audience, right? So big round of applause to each one of y'all for being here on this Saturday evening, for taking the effort of really improving your life. I can assure you that all of y'all who are a part of this particular club, you, before you realize it, if you take these things and start implementing it, you're going to see such a positive impact in your life. And literally before you realize it, you will get so much better, right? Now we have to give, we're going to give you an assessment, but I'd just like to share like one quote that I really liked. Actually, my three favorite quotes all are from a gentleman called Jim Rohn, right? I love Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn has this quote where he says, success is nothing but a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Failure is nothing but a few errors of judgment repeated every day. It is the cumulative weight of these daily disciplines or these daily errors of judgment that make or break a career, right? I'll repeat it. He says, success is nothing but a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Failure is nothing but a few errors of judgment repeated every day. It is the cumulative weight of these daily disciplines or these daily errors of judgment that make or break a career. So a lot of these things that you discussed today or in sessions earlier may seem like very small things to do, but it is the cumulative or the joint weight of all these things, if you do them on a day-to-day basis, that really makes or breaks your career, right? And if you keep making the same errors of judgment again by not doing a lot of these things that you are going to learn on these classes, then it's not going to be useful for you. Yeah, nobody can help you in the end, right?